Hello and welcome to another new video. Slightly different this time. I'm going to take a look at a set of stamps from the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany. Years and years ago, I used to buy kiloware bags of stamps that were still on the paper from the envelopes that they've been sent on. I used to get them from DJ Hanson. If you've seen my earlier video, you would have known that he was a mail order philatelist. And in the kiloware bags, there was always tons of the lower value development of the DDR stamps. I imagine that selling used stamps in that way from the mail of schools and companies was a very good way of earning foreign currency. East Germany had a very big problem in receiving exports in order to get imports. In order to get imports, they needed access to foreign currency, and one of the biggest imports was coffee, so I imagine that this was a great way, one of a number of ways of getting hold of that foreign currency. So why I picked this set? I was watching a video of John Collects Stamps, and he started a new collection of German stamps before the war and after the war, East German and West German stamps. So I saw them then, and it reminded me. I'll tell you a little bit about them. Some of the things I'm not really quite sure about. There doesn't seem to be much study about them. In Germany, they're called the Aufbau set, and that means structures. But in catalogues, the usual translation of this set of stamps is development in the German Democratic Republic. They were designed by Manfred Gottschall, and they were first issued in the large format. If you can see there, and also in a smaller format. The large format stamps initially were printed in the recess style, the interleo style. If you can make out that they have an almost tactile feel to them, and many stamps, especially American stamps, were also printed in that style up to the early 1970s, and in the UK, the high value stamps, I think of 1968 and 1970, they were also in that recess style. Just to mention John Collects Stamps again, he was talking about an engraver called Czeslaw Slania, and he also made a recess set of the Machin stamps. I think of 2009, but I'm not sure. Anyway, initially the smaller format were in the photogravure, the flat surface, and in 1980 these two started to be printed in the recess style of printing, and it's quite an expensive way of printing stamps. Photogravure is much cheaper, but I really don't know. The other thing that I'm unsure about is whether or not the larger stamps were in circulation together with the smaller stamps. I'm certain that the smaller ones were, because I used to have had such a lot of them. But if anybody knows if they're in use at the same time, I'd really love to know. I don't have the full set of the larger ones, but this is the full set of the smaller ones. So what I'm going to do is just explain what the feature is of each stamp, and whether developments in modern Germany have left them still standing. So, first of all, we have a 5 Pfennig stamp with a pelican in front of it. And it says that it's in the Tierpark in Berlin. And it's the Alfred Bremer House, which was a newly constructed animal house for the East Berlin Zoo, the very famous zoo in the zoological gardens in Berlin, is on the west side of Berlin. And yes, the pelicans are still there, and the Alfred Bremer House is still there. So let's move on. The next stamp, if I can get it to focus, is of the Palace de Republic, and this was colloquially known as Eric's Lampenladen, Eric's lamp shop. And it was the seat of government in East Germany. It's also a cultural centre. a lot of glass, a lot of lamps, and it was a real showpiece of the German Democratic Republic. When Germany was unified in 1990, it's one of those buildings that they didn't really want to be reminded of, and it closed down. I believe that artists squatted there at some period, and it was finally demolished, I think, around 2008. And now in its place, they've rebuilt the old Kaiser's Palace, the Berlin Schloss, which is called the Humboldt Forum now. And it's replicated very, very much the old Kaiser's Palace that was largely destroyed during the Second World War. Right, and moving on. We have the 15 Pfennig stamp. I've got my notes here, and the buildings that we're looking at are on the Berlin Fischerinsel, Fisher's Island, and the building in front is called the Große Glasstraße Ahornbrater, the Great Maple Leaf Restaurant, and that also was demolished in 2009. And moving on, we have the 20 Pfennig stamp, which shows the Lenin Denkmal, the Lenin monument in Leninplatz in Berlin. This is one of the very first statues that was demolished in 1992. I think the East Germans, along with the Soviets, fetishized Lenin, and I don't think that the monument was looked upon favourably in the reunified Germany. You can still find its head though, and that's on display at the Spandau Citadel in northwest Berlin. Right, and moving on, I'll show you on the bigger stamp. It's quite a pretty stamp. Is Berlin's Alexanderplatz, and it's a monument to modern technology. The television tower there and office blocks. Yes, that's all still there, and lots of shops. Yes, so yes, that clearly is still there. And the 30 Pfennig stamp there, if you can make it out, was nicknamed the Fauster. It was the workers' movement monument in Halle, in East Germany, in Saxony. The raised fists sort of represent the workers' movement, and that also has been demolished in 2003. I think that the whole of the plaza where it stood has been modernised, and it was just in the way. So the next stamp shows a big bust of Karl Marx, and it says at the side of it, Karl Marx Stad. The bust is still there, but Karl Marx Stad has been renamed, or really gone back to its old name of Chemnitz. But yes, the statue is still there. And the 40 Pfennig stamp is the Brandenburg Gate. I think it's the feature probably everybody knows about Berlin, and yes, that's still there. Though during East German times, the East German flag used to fly above it, but that's gone now. Oh no. Oh heck, right. The next stamp is the 50 Pfennig stamp, and that shows the new Wache, the new guardhouse. That's also in Berlin. On the main thoroughfare, the Unter den Linden, and that's quite close to the museums and the new Humboldt and the Berliner Dom, and during the East German times, there used to be guards positioned outside, but now inside there's a very moving sculpture by Kathy Korlewitz called The Mother with a Dead Son, and it's very, very quiet there, and there's a sign that says it's a place of remembrance for all the victims of war and tyranny. So not just the terror under the Nazis, but the terrible system that prevailed in East Germany under the socialist regime there, with the Stasi and what have you. Anyway, the 60 Pfennig stamp takes us to Dresden, and the stamp shows the newly rebuilt Crown Gate and the Zwinger fortress. Zwinger's a strange word. It means an outer ward. I think in medieval times that there was 2 walls there to protect the inhabitants. During the bombing of Dresden on February the 13th and 14th, 1945, very close to the end of the Second World War, it was practically destroyed, but it was rebuilt. Took many years, but it's finally rebuilt in finally reopened in 1963. And moving on, the 70 Pfennig stamp shows the old town hall, the Alte Rathaus in Leipzig, in Saxony. In 1943, that was hit with fire bombs, and it burnt down. It's a very old structure. Much of it was wooden, and it really didn't stand much of a chance. And that was construction started on that in 1946 and was rebuilt by 1950, and it's incredible. It really is a lovely building, and despite everything, they did a tremendous job in reconstructing it. And the 80 Pfennig stamp shows in Rostock, right on the Baltic coast there, Warnemünde. And in front of it, you can see the building called the Teapot, and just at the back of that is the lighthouse. The Teapot was burnt down in 1945 and rebuilt in the 1960s with the amazing curved roof. And on the 1 mark stamp is the Soviet Army memorial. That's in Treptow Park in Berlin, and that's it's a huge monument. Stands 12 meters tall, and that was built in 1949. There is another Soviet monument in the Tiergarten, and that was built within a few months of the fall of Berlin to the Red Army. But when the Allies came to divide the zones up of Berlin, Tiergarten fell into the British zone. And I think there's great anger also that the Soviets had a memorial there. The Red Army took a great deal of revenge on the civilians of Berlin and many other German cities. And finally, we have the 2 mark and the 3 mark stamps, and they show the coat of arms of the German Democratic Republic. Surprisingly, I know of one building that has that coat of arms still on it, and it's on the wall of the Mauer Museum, the Berlin Wall Museum at Checkpoint Charlie, and yes. So anyway, there's some stamps, and quite an interesting history of some of the buildings there in the old part of East Germany. Terrible things happened in East Germany, and I'm not looking at East Germany nostalgically or anything like that. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.